Hello and welcome to Knowledge Clip 1, Opinion Writing and Straight News. This knowledge clip belongs to Session 2 of the course Writing. The course Writing is part of the Teaching Skills module and is a Year 2 subject within the curriculum of the Department of English of the NHL Stenden, Groningen. This particular clip deals with straight news and opinion writing and the difference between those. It deals with the function of opinion writing. We will discuss some of the forms of opinion writing, and we will look at what makes opinion writing, and will include some expert advice. More information about the assignment of opinion writing can be found on the accompanying website under Session 2. So this particular knowledge clip deals with the difference between straight news and opinion writing. And looking at the difference between those, we can say that straight news is ideally really just factual representation of an occurrence or of a development. The left example about Theresa May's Brexit struggles is just that. It's very factual representation of the fact that MPs may vote on key legislation, in this case next week. And there's a subheading that basically again states a fact that Theresa May considers tabling withdrawal and implementation of the bill in the next 10 days. There's no slant there. There's no assessment of that this is so or why this is so. The picture that goes with this particular heading, because of course there's a multimodality, and perhaps you remember this from your discourse analysis course, the multimodal aspect of this article, with Theresa May being depicted in a sort of traffic governing way, may actually include or add that little assessment or that little opinion about what is going on. But factually, there's not much else to be reported other than what is being reported. On the other side, there's an example of opinion writing. And this is Marina Hyde, a well-known Guardian opinion writer. And the opinion piece is identified as such. You will find it under the opinion section of The Guardian, and it also comments on the Brexit phenomena. The heading, though, only Remainers could snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like this, already tells of a position that Marina Hyde is taking in or taking up, and there are even quotation marks as to say that this is something that she herself said or somebody else, but it's clearly a personal statement, a personal assessment about the goings on with Brexit. So this is the difference between opinion writing, and an opinion column or opinion writing is often a commentary on current affairs, and it has that personal perspective to it. And again, it clearly needs to be labeled as opinion in relation to that straight news. So diving a little bit deeper into the difference between straight news and opinion writing, we can say that opinion writing is an informed response to something current going on. Dr. Jeff Neely of University of Tampa Journalism is quoted as saying, as an informed democracy needs straight news and opinion news. Straight news to present facts, to help people think autonomously without a slant or a preconceived idea or ideology being promoted. If that's the case, you'd be heading down the road of propaganda. In fact, the opinion writing is to present an opinion, and it's to expose people to informed evidence-based arguments to make sense of the facts, because the facts in themselves may not always be clear. So reading across the political board in terms of newspapers, reading what people who have thought about this particular issue and who base themselves on certain evidence, what they feel to be the truth, or what they feel is the correct way to interpret a certain current affair or a certain development, can be very valuable in looking into one's own ideas of where do I position myself in relation to this news and in relation to these various public voices that present themselves. And again, an informed democracy needs both the straight news articles and opinion articles. Ideally, people read across the spectrum to form a balanced and well-founded opinion. The function of opinion writing is basically as we just outlined. It's written to complement the straight news. It provides context to straight news by offering a way to make sense of it. You might, in educational terms, say through the modeling of a thought process and basing yourself on certain evidence, arriving at a certain viewpoint or an interpretation or a conclusion can be very helpful in arriving at your own conclusion or your own stance about a certain event or fact. And what's important is that opinion writing gives a personal perspective on the news. So it reinforces that idea of it's not an institution that hands you an opinion or a set of facts, but it's a real life person doing very similar arguing and very similar analysis of the facts presented. And again, that strengthens that idea of that personal view that can help you arrive at your own. This is achieved through often the first person perspective use in opinion writing and the personal voice that comes with it. So it can be less factual, less distant, and in fact, as we can see later on in this presentation, oftentimes opinion writers are very engaged in the subject matter they write about. It also can provide a certain level of entertainment, which makes you come back to certain types of writers again and again because they have that certain witty tone or that gritty or that morose tone or that level of sarcasm that you quite enjoy reading. Reading. Also, the humor through a certain level of irony or absurdity can be very entertaining, and at the same time can be very poignant in bringing to the fore certain pressing important ideas or events. And there's a passion and an idealism in there. So why should I care? As in, why should the reader of these opinion writing articles care? So an opinion writer wants to have people wonder about the issues they bring to the fore. And again, it's a public voice. It's not an institutionalized voice. It's often, of course, opinion writers can be very political and often are, but it is a public voice and it's not a governmental voice. It's not an official stance of an official institution. It is really that one person who makes that, who brings that sense of humanness to the straight news. There are three forms of opinion writing. The first one is probably the most well-known one, and that's the version or the form that we've been talking about up to now. Again, it's clearly labeled as opinion, often presented under the heading of opinion or presented or printed in the opinion section, and there is a name and there's often a picture, and as you can see here in the example, It's even the label contributing opinion writer. So together with the genre aspects, the type of heading that clearly already brings an emotion or a stance or a viewpoint with it, and a subheading that builds on that. For the informed writer, for the informed reader, it's very clear that we're dealing here with an opinion writer. A second form would be when an institution such as a newspaper would present the institution view. The institution view is then decided on by the head of the newspaper and kind of the editorial team. And the example given here is a Guardian view on religious freedom. So then the view is subscribed to by all the journalists and people working for the Guardian, and that's the view presented to the outside world. A third one, which is also clearly marked as a personal idea, a personal contribution to make sense of straight news, or in many cases also reactions to opinion writing, that's the genre of the letter to the editor. Again, very clearly marked as to the editor, in this case with a name and a place of residence. And if the content here might be a little too explosive or too controversial, it might just say that the name of the writer is known to the publishing institution to protect this writer from some of the feedback or some of the fallout in some cases they might be subjected to. But also this is a very personal addition and a very personal view and appraisal of some of the other viewpoints being expressed in a newspaper. So opinion writing is more than just an opinion. It's more than just saying, okay, here's what I think because I just happen to think it. It's an informed opinion to make sense of the news presented. So there is a certain amount of what we would call logos, and logos is the art of using argumentation, logical reasoning to arrive at a point. So here's what I think because. This means that opinion writers make use of, referencing to certain reports that just came out, political reports, research reports, other news outlets that have reported on certain issues. They would use statistics, sometimes even a graph to make a point clear. So it's an informed response. It has an element of news in it, so it's always something connected to an event or a development that is current, because it is something that you will want your readers to be interested in. It is a contribution to the collective discussion, and this is so important that you as an opinion writer have your own view, your own take, because you are presenting yourself as a knowledgeable participant of this community, of this speech community, this news community, and you're saying, here's what I think, here's what I've noticed, and you expand on that. And of course that different take or that deviant conclusion that you reach, that is what makes people want to read you, and that's the contribution to that collective discussion. And again, based on arguments and solid facts, and it has to be said here, of course, that argumentation and facts can be used and perhaps twisted or framed in such a way that it tells your story. There's always that freedom, of course, that an opinion writer has, but every time it's displaying a thorough understanding of the news and its implications. So it's not just saying, I think this because, but you show that you've understood the event in its context, or you've understood the development in its context, and you're commenting on it. So that's what makes opinion writing more than just an opinion. The various opinion writers who are quite well known across the spectrum of right-leaning newspapers and left-leaning newspapers. We've collected a few here for you. Some of them are syndicated writers, which means that they're actually connected to a certain news outlet, and some of them are more freelance workers. Going into opinion writing and what it is and what the place is within the whole kind of journalistic field. And to start off, introducing Richard Argood, who in the 80s won the Pulitzer Prize for editorial writing. So it is taken very seriously as a genre within the whole field of journalism. Richard Argood received the Pulitzer Prize for distinguished editorial writing, the test of excellence being clearness of style, moral purpose, sound reasoning, and the power to influence public opinion in what the writer conceives to be the right direction. Notice also that when you upload your own opinion writing piece, the 4 aspects that you will be assessed or peer assessed on are just that: clearness of style, moral purpose, sound reasoning, and power to influence public opinion. Richard Argood has a number of pieces of advice. And first off, he says, you have to care about what you're writing. This is partly why we suggested that you write your opinion piece on something to do with education, because we know you care about that. But if that's not really something that's at the forefront for you in terms of pressing topics at this moment, then please find something that actually works for you in terms of a field that you want to highlight, an event that you'd like to make known, or a development that you've been observing for quite some time, and you're really anxious or stressed about. Those are the types of topics that really serve well as a topic for opinion writing. This also allows to show your passion. So this means that in terms of style, word choice, you come away from the obvious, stating facts, using middle of the road language, and it allows you to actually be a little bit more extreme in your word use or in your claims, because this is something that you feel strongly about. Again, you underpin what you think and you bring that across to the reader, but it allows you that little bit of emotion that is I think also part and parcel of the opinion writing genre. So, like I just said, you back up what you are arguing with evidence and with structured argument, and say what you have to say directly and concisely. So anything that needs to be said in a lot of words, using large words, big words, conceptually opaque words, that means that you may not be coming across as clearly as you would like to. Using lots of nominalizations does that, for example. A nominalization is a verb turned into a noun. So to argue can turn into an argument or argumentation or argumentative. And that means that the longer these words become and the more suffixes and affixes you put to them, the more cloudy or fluffy they become, and the less clear it becomes who's doing the arguing. So try and have people perform actions to objects. So state what's happening, who does what to whom, and be very clear about that. All right, opinion writing expert advice. Second expert that we have here is Martin Nemko, and he has some advice in terms of planning and structure as well. And from session 1, of course, you will have some understanding of some of the writing models and how they model the writing process, so you can use that to your advantage as well. First off, avoid the obvious and find a fresh angle. There's little use in you kind of retelling what 3 other people have said before you, because what then is the newsworthy element for people to read you? In line with Richard Ergood's advice, be concise. Martin Emco says, respect the reader's time. So again, come out and say what you have to say. And using distilled language is key there. So precise vocabulary is an advantage here. Just being concise and using that very clear word rather than words that are, well, conceptually too big and don't really cover what you're trying to say. So in that sense, always remember your audience. And the last bit of advice is that it's far easier to revise your way to excellence than to come up with it out of thin air. So draft, plan, write, rewrite if necessary. Getting stuck on this one idea and waiting for your head to clear all of the clutter before you can kind of in one go write it down, that's going to make you freeze up completely. In that sense, we also advise you not to start off with a title, because any new idea that does not really fit the title, that will make you reconsider that idea, where in fact the title is a capstone that really is a mini summary of everything that's about to come. So tying yourself down on a title in that sense is not a good idea. And the last opinion writing expert advice: avoid blowing off steam. Nobody wants to hear a sourpuss rant about their pet peeve. They want to be informed. They want to know that it's a sound and reasonable argumentation, and they want to be entertained as well as informed. So always. Thank you very much for watching this knowledge clip about opinion writing. We hope to have covered a number of important aspects having to do with the difference between opinion writing and straight news, the forms of opinion writing, the essence of opinion writing, and some of the expert advice as to how to tackle writing an opinion piece. Belonging to this series is also a second clip that we encourage you to watch, which is going to be more about analyzing a particular piece of opinion writing and going more into the structure and the language of it. And that's going to be also under session 2 of the writing website, and that's going to be knowledge clip 2. We hope you've enjoyed it, and see you soon.